What does Easy Anti-Cheat for Linux and Proton mean for the future of the Steam Deck? And should Microsoft be worried? Let's talk about this. So Epic Games announced on Friday that Easy Anti-Cheat was coming to Linux and Proton. Now, this is enormous news for the Linux desktop as it brings us one step closer to critical mass. Not only that, but Epic is Valve's chief competitor in the PC gaming space. Epic owns Easy Anti-Cheat, and yet the Steam Deck is such a paradigm shift for the gaming industry, especially the PC gaming space, that Epic mentioned the Steam Deck by name in its announcement of Easy Anti-Cheat coming to Linux. Quote, Epic Online Services exist to connect developers and players across all platforms, including the upcoming Steam Deck, and we're excited to take another step in that direction. Today, we extend support to Linux and Mac for developers who maintain full native builds of their games for these platforms. To make it easy for developers to ship their games across PC platforms, support for the Wine and Proton compatibility layers on Linux is included. Now, this opens the door to a slew of games. Halo the Master Chief Collection, Apex Legends, Dead by Daylight, Fortnite, Gears 5, Rust, and many, many, many more games will be playable online, not just from the Steam Deck, but from desktop Linux as well. Not to be outdone by Easy Anti-Cheat's announcement, BattlEye, another anti-cheat middleware provider, announced, quote, BattlEye has provided native Linux and Mac support for a long time, and we can announce that we will also support the upcoming Steam Deck or Proton. This will be done on an opt-in basis with game developers choosing whether they want to allow it or not. Now, BattlEye provides anti-cheat services for games like PUBG and Destiny 2, and they're right, it has been available for Linux for a while. But the key difference here is that BattlEye is now going to support Proton natively. This is absolutely stellar news. Now, it is worth noting that both of the anti-cheat middleware providers have said that this is going to be on the developers of the game to enable support for Proton and Linux. Just because they've added support for Linux and Proton doesn't mean that every game that uses Easy Anti-Cheat or BattlEye will be playable on Linux. That's an important caveat. In fact, Easy Anti-Cheat said, quote, starting with the latest SDK, developers can activate anti-cheat support for Linux via Wine or Proton with just a few clicks in the Epic Online Services developer portal, starting with the latest SDK. Now, I'm no expert, but it sounds to me like the existing games that are out there that are using Easy Anti-Cheat are going to need to upgrade their Easy Anti-Cheat middleware in their games. That's if they want to take advantage of Proton, of course. The question is, how many older titles out there that are using older versions of Easy Anti-Cheat are going to be upgraded? That remains to be seen. As for BattlEye, I mean, they said in the tweet that it was going to be an opt-in thing for developers. They didn't say that you'll have to upgrade BattlEye or anything like that. This is interesting stuff. So the question is, will game developers take advantage of Easy Anti-Cheat or BattlEye on Proton? Well, if it's an older game that doesn't have much of a player base, then they might not have the economic incentive to actually go back and flip the switch or add, integrate the new version of BattlEye or whatever they need to do. It might not be economically viable. But if we ask politely and we ask like civilized adults, not, entitled children, then we might just convince them. Now, look, I don't mean to be dousing hopes here. Like, this is a huge step forward. This means that, for developers who have decided to turn on Proton support, you're not going to be labeled as a cheater for playing your games on Linux through Proton. That's fantastic news because that has happened many times. I have talked about that happening many, many times on my channel. The question that I have now is, should Microsoft be worried? Because honestly, I think that the Steam Deck is going to be introducing the masses to Linux. It's already having a profound impact on our little community as it's convinced two of the most popular anti-cheat software vendors in the gaming industry to bring their services to Proton. Really, I think that Windows is barely hanging on. There are only 3 reasons why someone would choose to use Windows. The first one is that it comes on your computer and you don't know how to change it. The second one is software compatibility. If you've got software, like a video game, for example, that only runs on Windows, well, then your choice is pretty clear. You're going to run Windows, right? Up until this announcement, that was especially true of online games. Anti-cheat software would see you running Proton and say, you're cheating. get out of here. But now you'll probably be able to play the vast majority of the games in your Steam library on Linux. Now all that Windows has left is, the Adobe suite and bespoke business software. Stuff for enterprise. Windows is entrenched in that industry, and that's where it's going to stay. But I think that most people are just going to end up using Linux. And the final reason is familiarity. Most people are familiar with Windows, because Linux doesn't have a C drive, or because, God forbid, you might have to open a terminal and copy and paste a command in there every once in a while. And people, don't like that. They don't understand it. It's scary. And look, I'm not making fun of anyone for, any of this. Those are real concerns that people have. At this point, I think it's only a matter of time. We really just need to double down on educating people. We need to get the idea of using desktop Linux out there. Desktop Linux is mature, and it is a viable and most of the time a drop-in replacement for Windows. Hardware is hardly a concern anymore, unless you're using very specific and kind of dedicated hardware. And with Proton's compatibility ever improving and the availability of BattlEye and Easy Anti-Cheat, we are so close to critical mass and the wider adoption of Linux. And that is very exciting to me. Now, I could end the video on that note, the very strong note, but there is one bit of Steam Deck news that came out this week, too, that I really wanted to talk about. Valve released a FAQ for the Steam Deck. Now, I can't say that there were a lot of surprises on this list, at least from my perspective, as someone who follows Linux gaming news rather religiously. Questions like, can you have multiple Steam accounts signed in on one Steam Deck? Can you run non-Steam games through Proton on the deck? Can you add a game like you can on desktop Steam? Will improvements to the Steam Deck apply to Proton for the desktop? Now, all of those are a somewhat obvious yes. Some of them were just assumed to be yes, but it's good to have confirmation. The most interesting thing here, though, is that micro SD cards are going to be formatted in ext4. That is interesting to me because, as far as I know, most people don't have a computer or a device that can read ext4 file systems. So if you put a micro SD card in your Steam Deck, that's probably just going to be a micro SD card for your Steam Deck, unless you want to reformat it. That is quite fascinating to me. Thank you very much for watching. I appreciate you being here. If you like these videos, if you believe in the work that I'm doing, you can help support the show with a monthly contribution on Patreon or by becoming a YouTube member. Every little bit helps, and I want to say thank you to my patrons and my YouTube members. I would not be able to do this if it wasn't for you guys, so thanks. That's going to do it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you all have a great day, and I will see you in the next video.